What's happening, APLers? The 2024 NFL season gets underway tomorrow. So here's a little draft review slash season preview, hopefully just in time for the start of football. Seems like it was a long time ago. We were at draft weekend where nobody was believing in Kevin. Uh, that picture, both pictures go to show how things went. So I'm going to go through team by team, kind of talk about each team's roster, what they picked, and maybe question some things and point out some other things. So we're kind of in a random order here, but we'll get started with Corey's team. Maybe. There you go. All right. So Corey's team here. He's missing his 9th round pick to start with, but otherwise had his full stock of picks intact. So look through position by position here. So he used his 1st round pick on Mahomes, just like last year, hoping that it goes better this year than last year. Seems like a solid pick. He's got more stuff this year with the rookie and Hollywood there. It seems like the offense is going to be what it was before. So looks good. And like the Richardson pick in the 13th, may not work perfect for this scoring system, but it's worth a shot in the 13th round on the upside there. So kind of trying to rank the positions with a GIF here. So feeling pretty good about the quarterbacks. Less good about the running backs. So off to a good start with Mahomes. The Jacobs pick in the 4th, I think, is pretty good. Packers should be using him a lot. And then Nick Chubb in the 5th might have been a mistake. He's not going to play for a while. Starts on the pup. Not hearing that he's coming back like anytime real soon. So probably could have got him a lot later. Eckler in the 7th. I'm sure it's much better. We'll see what happens in Washington. It seems like Eckler's going to be the passing down back. If he's like he was before he was terrible last year, then the 7th round is a steal. But looks like it could be a long shot. Jonathan Brooks, nice pick in the 10th. He's not going to play for a while either, so we're kind of struggling here for depth. And then Algier in the 14th is fine. He's Falcons guy that fits with the Corey trademark and the Corey theme there. So running back GIF is a little bit of concern there for Michael Scott. The wide receivers look pretty solid. A.J. Brown in the 2nd is good. DJ Moore in the 6th I really like. Mark Cooper in the 8th also really good. So those 3 starters look good. Ladd McConkey, Georgia guy. Another Corey trademark there in the 11th. Could be the leading guy there for the Chargers. So sure, the 11th, and then Mike Williams coming off the ACL tear with the Jets in the 18th is fine. If he looks decent, or if there's some patience to see if he gets up to speed there, that could be a good value. Otherwise, he's a good candidate for leaving the roster after week 1 for whoever is the hot pickup. So Stanley approves there of the wide receivers. Tight ends, I think, look pretty good. Kittle is always a solid pick. He's going to have some up weeks and some down weeks. That can be a week winners or week losers, but overall, he's the number 1 tight end last year and pretty solid pick. Cole Kmet, maybe a little more concerned there. It seems like he's going to split with Gerald Everett, but he was good. He was on Corey's team last year too, so I think that works there at tight end. So overall, the roster I think is pretty solid. The starters are all right. We got some concerns at running back, so we'll see how all this one shakes out. So moving on, next up is my draft summary. So I made a trade with Daggy to trade out of my first round pick, the third overall pick. Picked up a 3rd rounder, a 5th rounder, and a 7th rounder. Main thought pattern for me was I was missing my 5th. Kind of felt like I was locked into certain positions I had to draft. So why not trade down and pick up some extra picks to add some depth to the roster? Because the goal this year is to beat Ross and Daggy, and I feel like you either need to do that with a bunch of monsters or some depth so that you have a lot of chances to get guys that could be really good. So I tried to go that route. Not sure if it really worked. So quarterback Dak in the 3rd, and then Darnold is my late round guy. I felt better about Dak during the draft than I do right now. Oh, by the way, the ranks here are the positional ranks for each player at their positions. Like Dak is the 5th overall quarterback. So these are from random rankings. I'm going to use these later to assess overall rosters. So felt like Dak was a monster last year. That'll continue this year because they have terrible running backs. So I felt pretty good there. I'm not regretting that I just didn't take Josh Allen instead earlier in the third round, but see how all that plays out. Darnold, I'm fine with taking a shot on there. There's some other guys I would have preferred, but it works. So I think it's okay in quarterback. Running back, well, this was not the plan coming into the draft. They got Achane, that kind of was the plan. Wanted that guy for sure. He could be a monster, could be hurt. Not really sure which way to go. But did not plan to draft a bunch of old shitty guys next. So Joe Mixon was, I guess he's on a good offense. Never been a huge Joe Mixon fan, but needed a running back after taking wide receivers in the 4th and 5th. Najee Harris, I feel a little better about. I think he's still kind of old and shitty, but Steelers are going to run the ball like a million times a game. And maybe their offensive line is a little better. He wasn't that horrible last year, even though he was on a bunch of different teams. Pollard taking a chance that he's healthier this year, and in I don't know, I guess the offense isn't any better, but I'm just hoping that he's fully healthy there in the 8th, and then Chase Brown. I'm a fan of him, and in the 11th, we'll see what happens in the Cincy backfield. So overall, I think that backfield is really dangerous. It could be all terrible. Or there could be a couple guys that hit, so not the best. Wide receiver, feeling better about there. Like Drake London, with Cousins throwing him the ball. Marvin Harrison could be fun. And Rashee Rice doesn't seem like he's going to be suspended this year at all. So he's the high target guy in the Chiefs offense. Tank Dell's just fun, deep threat, and we'll see what happens if Jameson Williams can break out. Otherwise, there's an open roster spot. So feeling pretty happy about the wide receivers. Tight end also feeling pretty good there. Trey McBride, happy with that pick in the 2nd. Goddard is, I think, okay as a backup. He'll be hurt for 4 to 8 games of the season. We'll go there. So happy to get McBride in the 2nd. It was a tough decision in the 2nd round what to do with that pick between McBride, Josh Allen, and Jahmyr Gibbs. So we'll see if we made the right choice. I would say overall, I felt better about my team right after the draft than I do now. So I'll give myself a yay, I think. And we'll see how it goes. Next up, Greg. My little screen here. Move this to the bottom. Greg was missing his 7th and 8th due to a couple trades last year. So he traded for 404 or 444 for 7th and 8th to fill that in. So Greg takes a wait and see approach at quarterback, which is odd for Greg. Greg is usually an early quarterback guy. So he gets Brock Purdy, the guy he traded for last year, who played pretty well for him. And then Trevor Lawrence, who was drafted much higher last year. Seems like he has some potential this year to do better. So I think it's not flashy. It's not exciting. It's just okay. So I think there's some potential there, but it's not too much fun. Running back is interesting. So Jonathan Taylor, I'm not a fan of him. I just think he's hurt all the time. It's not a fun back for me, but I understand that he can be good and can be a monster. So don't second guess the 1st round pick there too much. James Conner was huge last year. Arizona should be more fun this year. So I think that's fine in the 5th round. He's going to be hurt for some portion of the season, like he always is. So Greg has some decent depth here behind him. So you got Zamir White, who's on probably a pretty shitty team. He doesn't really catch the ball. So if there's some positive game script games there, then maybe Zamir White's good. Maybe could punch in some touchdowns. See how it goes. Jerome Ford in the 9th, probably the starting running back for Cleveland for most of the season. It should be pretty solid. And then Zach Moss is the starter for Cincy. So I think that filled in pretty nicely, but I think it is a bunch of the same guys. So like James Conner, Zamir White, Jerome Ford, Zach Moss, all kind of the same guy. Wide receiver is I think is a little way. It's a good way to start it. So you got Puka in the 3rd. I think that's a pretty good value there in the 3rd. Ayuk in the 6th. That was a pretty good value too. And then it's a little different from there. So Adunze in the 10th. I like him. Not sure if I want to rely on him as my starter every week right away for the season. And then Sutton, I think that's a pretty solid value in the 16th round. But he still plays for Denver, and I'm not sure how well they're going to be able to throw the ball. So not sure if we're going to get some solid production out of this third starter right away in the season. So tight end, Mark Andrews in the second is good. He was in a car accident. It seems like he's fine now, but even if he does get hurt, doesn't matter. Greg's got the handcuff. He's got the Isaiah Likely already on his roster. The 17th round. Taysom in the 14th seemed okay right now on my fantasy league. He is as a quarterback. We'll see if they switch him to a tight end before the season starts. But there, I think tight end could be fun, or it could be a train wreck like that guy, or like Mark Andrews got. So overall, Greg's draft, I think we got fingers crossed that things go right here. So we need a healthy Jonathan Taylor. We need Puka Nacua to be healthy as well. He was banged up in training camp. We need Mark Andrews to stay healthy. Had a little bit of risk on Ayuk missing training camp and all that stuff, and James Conner to be healthy. So I think there's just a lot of questions here on if these guys can maintain their health through the season. If they do, we got a chance. Up next is Jake. Jake was missing his 5th round pick. I think he had some other stuff that was mixed around in there too, but I think he traded a 7th, but got a 7th, and then he traded out of his 8th round pick and picked up an extra 9th and an extra 11th from Tank in there too. So quarterback is pretty fun. Jalen Hurts, I think, is a pretty solid value in the 4th, and Lamar Jackson is a really solid value in the 11th. I know Jake claims to hate Lamar Jackson, but seems to have him on his roster every year. So I think quarterback looks pretty solid. Running back is interesting. So Pacheco in the 2nd over Jahmyr Gibbs was, let's say, a surprise to me. On there, Kamara in the 6th, end of the 6th is. I just wonder how much the guy has left in him. He should be the focal point of the offense. The offense should be better, but it's still the Saints and it's still Derek Carr. But maybe he just throws the ball to him like 8 to 12 times a game and it works. Javonte, I think, is pretty solid in the 9th. They're gonna throw to him a ton. Seems like with Samaje getting cut, it's pretty much down to Javonte being the main guy with Jaleel McLaughlin, who Jake is also rostered here. So he's got that backfield locked up, and I think that'll be pretty solid. And then Rico Dowdle is a good reach here in the 13th to possibly get the Dallas starter. We're not really sure if he's going to be decent as a starter, but I think that's a solid pick in that round. So Leo says maybe this will work. Wide receiver is pretty fun. Tyreek, solid pick at number 2. Devontae at 3-2 is not for me. I thought that was too early. I've never really been a Devontae fan. I don't think that I don't think Vegas is going to throw the ball very much at all. Just I'm not a huge fan there. Ridley, Kirk, and Keenan in the 9th and the 2 in the 11th round, I think, are really good values. Ridley is potentially the one there in Tennessee. They're probably going to throw the ball a ton. And then Kirk and Keenan, I thought, fell really far and were really, really good values at this spot. So overall, despite the Devontae in the 3rd pick, I like it. Tight end, Njoku, but he was like the 9th, 10 end drafted just before Ferguson. Thought he was taken in the right spot. Farm was just he pisses me off from last year, and I'm just not sure if Arthur Smith knows what to do with the tight end. So I think it's fine at tight end. And overall, we'll see how it goes. I think that there are ways that this can all work. Hurts being a monster, Tyreek is always a monster. If Njoku does what he did in the second half of the year last year, so that's a pretty solid base with those 3 guys are going to put up some solid points, and then piece some stuff together at running back. If Pacheco doesn't lose too much to Samaje, find a number 2 between Kamara, Javonte, and Dowdle. I think things can get put together here. So next up, Tank. So I don't think he had any picks that were traded up. He traded up for 8-9. and traded away his 9th and 11th. But going into the draft, I think he had the full onslaught there. So quarterback, uh, the last couple of years, he's waited forever to take a quarterback. Hasn't really gone well. So this year decided to go for quarterback a little earlier. Took Tua in the 5th and Stafford in the 13th. So I think the bet here is that Tua is going to have to throw the ball a lot more than he did last year because their defense is worse. I think Tua is like the 4th or 5th overall quarterback last year, but there are a lot of games where they just ran the ball for most of the 3rd and 4th quarter. So I think there's some upside here on Tua. I think it's okay. The Tua to Tyreek stuff should be fun. Running back, Kyren over Jahmyr Gibbs, another shocker. Figured Tank was a Gibbs guy there, and then the Kyren is the punt returner stuff, and he's if that's real or not. But when Kyren did play last year, he was hurt for a little bit. He was like really, really good. Scored like 135-ish a game on average, so gonna feel pretty good about that. James Cook also good last year when he played. Or I guess he played all year. Good all year. Even more involved when Joe Brady took over as the offensive coordinator. So now that dude's the offensive coordinator for the whole year. So I think you feel pretty good about those two as your starters. Aaron Jones will be hurt for half the year. Good for the other half. Zeke might be dust. We'll see. And Charbonnet, I think, is a decent bet in the 13th. You just see what that split is in Seattle in week 1. If it's all Walker, then Charbonnet can be ditched for whatever the hotness is in week 1 waivers. Or if it's a more of a split or they favor Charbonnet, then you got a pretty good value there. So I think we're okay. At running back, I like Kyren and Cook. Not sure what the other ones. Wide receiver, say some of these guys are. CD's a monster. He's gonna be great. He got the contract all signed. He'll be solid 125 those points a week. Pittman is just not for me. He's like a possession receiver kind of guy that now has a quarterback who's going to throw to him that can't really throw accurately. So I'm not sure if that game fits or not. Looking at stats from last year, sixth round for Pittman is I think a pretty good value. Just not sure if it's there this year with Richardson throwing him the ball, but maybe it'll be Richardson for like 2 games and then he'll be hurt again and he'll go right back to where he was last year. Flowers in the 8th, I think it's solid. Jaden Reed is good in the 10th. Those Packer receivers all seem like they're about the same, but he's a leader. And then Addison in the 14th is fine too. So Tony Collette's excited about it. I share most of her excitement, but maybe not quite as hot and bothered as she seems there. Dalton Kincaid is a very fitting pick. A little bit of history with Tank and Kincaid's themselves. So I like the Kincaid pick in the 3rd. I think he'll be the #1 receiver for Buffalo. The trade up for Hawkinson, I think, was to get in front of Kevin so that Kevin couldn't take him. I'm not sure if Kevin was going to take him anyway, but anyway, Hawkinson, whenever he comes back, seems like it's somewhere between 4 and 8 games from now. If he comes back and does what he did last year, it'll be fine. Otherwise, Tank can IR him after a week and then has an open spot for tight end. So we'll just back up the Kincaids there. So overall, I think there could be a party here. If things go right. 2 is a monster. Things are good. Kyren and Cook do what they did last year. Good. Lamb, good. Kincaid, good. So there's a path to put up a lot of points each week with those guys. Okay, good. Ryan's draft summary. Ryan didn't have a lot of picks. Look at the little chart over here. He was missing a 4th, a 5th, a 6th, and an 8th going into the draft and had an extra 10th. So he deals his 1st, picks up another 3rd and a 5th to try to help fill in some of the blanks here. So overall, I think this roster looks pretty solid for the picks that he had. So we started at quarterback with Josh Allen in the 3rd. Josh Allen fell to 3-5, which is with Jahmyr Gibbs and Josh Allen falling to where they fell in the draft were probably the biggest surprises to me. So Ryan scoops up the valley for Josh Allen. Don't think that was the plan to take a quarterback in the 3rd, but has a lot of value there. Gino on the 14th, I think is fine too. New offense going to be installed there in Seattle. Same thing that Washington ran, and should be fun. So be pretty excited about the quarterback situation there for Ryan. Running backs, Etienne's not my favorite. Rashad White's not my favorite, but understand they're both dual threat guys that I think have a pretty high floor. The ceiling could be there on Etienne and White too. From there, Tajay Spears just probably going to split even with Pollard there, so I think that's pretty decent value in the 10th. And then Benson and Lloyd, the two rookies that you kind of see how they go, and how, given the picks that Ryan has here, he's going to play the waiver wire if those guys aren't doing things. So I think we're all right in running back. Wide receiver, again, Jamar Chase isn't for me. I don't think I've ever owned him. I just don't really like him that much. I think where he's taken was fine. Then interesting to see not another receiver until the 10th round. And I think the two guys in the 10th and the 12th and the 16th, those are all good guys. So Godwin's going to give you a solid base, should be out of the slot this year, which is good. Deontay Johnson should catch a ton of balls. So I think those guys are, should be good 70, 80 point guys with maybe some weeks over that, which is probably what Ryan is looking for. Then he's got a couple of breakout guys and JSN and Keon Coleman here. So you can see what's happening with Coleman early in the season. He's got the connection with Allen if needed, if that thing is working. Otherwise, he's got some roster spots here to move on. So I think wide receiver looks pretty nice for not picking until not taking your second receiver until the 10th round. I think that looks pretty good. Tight end is fine. Jake Ferguson will be another solid guy that'll put up some points, maybe not have a huge upside. Some of the other guys, but he was definitely the next best guy there when Ryan took him. So I thought that looked pretty good. Tyler Conklin was in the 11th. He's already been ditched for Greg Dulcich. So I think we're all right at tight end. And then overall, I did say, like Ross Gaylor says here, perhaps things can work right. So I think Ryan's plan in each year is he's got some stuff that you can put together early in the season, see how things go, win a few games, and then you can trade and pick up stuff that he's missing. If things don't go well, then he's got some stuff to trade and move on for the next year. I think that roster is set up pretty well here, but overall, I think nicely done with the amount of picks that were missed. Solomon's draft is up next. He came in to the draft missing stuff. He's missing a 7 and a 9 and an 11. The 7 and 11 are traded to today. The 9 to Kevin for last year. And then you traded more away once you got to the draft. So the standard Solomon Ryan trade happens. So he picks up another first, but now he's missing a 3rd, a 5th, a 7th, 10th, and 11th. So it's kind of a lot of stuff to be missing. And then the draft happens. So quarterback in a pick that Sade called, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks before the draft. So that, in the 4th round, Solomon's going to take Jordan Love because he's not going to have another pick until the 6th, and he's not going to be able to risk it. So he's going to take Jordan Love there, which is exactly what happened. And then doubles down on the homerism to take Aaron Rodgers there in the 18th. So it's just like a perfect Solomon quarterback roster there with Love and Rodgers. Bryce Young, I don't understand for 1 second. Looked like total trash last year. We're soon going to talk about the running backs, which are horrifying, but there's only 4. So 3 quarterbacks with zero plans to start Bryce Young ever. There should probably be another running back on their roster instead of 3 quarterbacks. But at running back, kind of interesting. So Gus Edwards in the 8th round, Singletary in the 9th, Chuba and Chandler. That's the crew. As I said, we're missing picks. So, do some debating here. Someone takes Jordan Love in the 4th. Could have taken James Cook. Could have taken Ken Walker, Rashad White, James Conner at the 4th, and hoped that Jordan Love would make it to the 6th. where he took Diggs. Maybe that doesn't happen, but that's an option. Could have where he takes Diggs in the 6th. He takes his 3rd wide receiver instead of his first running back. So could have had Mixon, Kamara, Montgomery, Zamir White, Aaron Jones, Swift, Najee, but passes and takes Diggs. So I think they'll be interesting to watch from there. But the running backs are they're not good. It might be the worst running back group that's ever been drafted in the APL. But I think there's a path you can see for each of these guys. If Gus Edwards is the leader of the Charger backfield, there's some points there. Singletary has gotten a lot of praise from Dable that he's a do everything back, a 3-down back. He's gonna be good for that offense. Just wonder if that offense is any good. Chuba's gonna be the guy in Carolina until Brooks plays. Then even if he does play, it sounds like they're going to want to play him and make sure he's healthy for the long run. So maybe Chuba has a lot of value, and then Ty Chandler should be really good when Aaron Jones gets hurt. So you can see a path of value on all these guys. You just would hope that there's more reliable options to start with. At wide receiver, strong start, Justin Jefferson and Garrett Wilson. 2 guys should be monsters there. Diggs, I'm fine with Diggs. I think he'll be solid in Houston. So those, that trio to start with, I think looks really good. Dontavian Wicks, fine. It's another Packer guy. He's the 4th wide receiver on his team, like his team and Solomon's fantasy team. So it's interesting. And Quentin Johnston shouldn't be on the roster anywhere. I'm not even sure the Chargers want him on their roster. They just have to because they picked him in the 1st round last year. But there's I don't know, 50 guys that are better than him to be on an APL roster. So kind of thought that this looks like Two-Face from the Dark Knight. It's the first 3 are really good, and then you flip it over to the other side. It's oh, shit, that's scary. So tight end, we got Kelsey. He's first tight end off the board at 1.5. Just wonder if the 35-year-old dude still has it. The Chiefs have talked about scaling everything back for him to make sure he's healthy for the playoffs and he can be effective in the playoffs. But still Kelsey can still do stuff. Just wonder how consistent it'll be. So I still give it a thumbs up like T Swift did there. The Musgrave pick I like in the 17th too. I think he goes there because it seems like he and Kraft will be splitting stuff. But when Musgrave was all by himself last year, he had some really nice games. So I think that's a really good value there in the 17th. Overall, there's a lot of questionable picks here, so I think it's worth questioning, like Brock is doing. Next up is the Sade draft summary. So he's missing his 5th and 8th round picks, but he had an extra 6th and 7th and 11th in here. So, for my money, this is the best draft of anybody that had in the league, even the guys that had the extra picks. So quarterback, I think, is fun. You get CJ Stroud in the 3rd as the, I think, third quarterback taken. I think it went Mahomes and Stroud, which is right. But I think in the 3rd round, that's a pretty nice value there. That offense has the potential to be really, really fun. So I like that pick. And then I think today are both big fans of Caleb Williams. I think he could be a lot of fun. So in the 11th there, it's a fun pick. So very nice. Running back, another job well done here. So Bijan in the 6th, or in the 1st with the 6th pick is fun. Everything sounds very positive for him. And then Derrick Henry in the 4th, he slides all the way to the 4th. Today scoops him up. Not a lot of receiving threat here, but the Ravens offense is way better than what the Titans have been. So I think I can't stand him, but I think he'll be pretty dangerous. DeAndre Swift in the Bears offense, again, super fun there. Brian Robinson's not for me. Maybe a rare swing and a miss there on that one, but we'll see. Jalen Warren, I think that's a nice upside pick there too. So Pittsburgh's going to run the ball forever. Jalen Warren might be better than Najee, and you get him 3-4 rounds later. So Warren had the injury risk going into the draft, but seems to be ready to play week 1. Wide receiver, I think, is extremely well done. So there's patience here to wait at wide receiver, but the guy who has been drafting since May knows what he's doing here. So waits till the 6th round against Debo. He's a big fan of Neighbors, so I think that he's could be a lot of fun. And then we all pass in Cooper Cup like forever. Today scoops him up, hopes that he's not the wrecked up, injured version of Cooper Cup, but the fun version of Cooper Cup. And then McLaurin in the 9th, he should get like all the volume in Washington with a new quarterback who can throw the ball and like literally nothing behind him. And then Brian Thomas is a classic Sade pick here. See what happens in the first week or two, and then you can cut bait on him and pick up whoever you'd like if that works. So pretty impressed with the patience to wait a wide receiver and get, I think, 4 really solid guys here. Tight end ends up with Laporta in the middle of the 2nd, which I think is a steal there too. So Juwan Johnson is the last round pick. It's fine for the Saints, but with Juwan Johnson's playing, things went horribly wrong. So extremely impressed with the draft here. I think it's like I said, I think it's the best draft that they've had of the year. So I think it was the best draft of the year given the draft capital. So imagine if this guy had extra picks like some other people had. What would happen? All right, so we got 2 people left to review here. So the Daggy draft summary. Ooh, my animations are off here a little bit. So Daggy went into the draft with some extra picks, and then he loaded up, traded away some of those extra picks to get more. So he got 1-3, then got 4-4, traded away 3rd, 5 and a 7, and another 7 and another 8 to get those picks. So took some of his surplus, turned it into higher picks. The question is, did he pick the right guys with those higher picks? So quarterback, Kyler, Cousins, and Daniels. So the 3 quarterback combo here. I just questioned, is there hesitation in Kyler and Cousins that needed Jaden Daniels, or is Jaden Daniels just around too long? Felt like we needed to roster him. The 3 quarterback build is interesting. But Kyler, it could be fun, could be a little dangerous. Cousins coming off the injury could be a little dangerous too. So I like all these guys. I think they're good for where they were taken. Maybe Kyler's a little early. Not too much, maybe a little. Just wonder with those extra picks, should have grabbed a quarterback earlier. Running back is fun with Brees. I think he will be extremely good this year. I'm not a Saquon guy. I'm not a Ramondre guy. Understand why Saquon can be good. He's in best offense he's ever been in. He's out of the Giants now into Philly. The tush push stuff that matters for other leagues doesn't really matter for our league. If he gets a ton of yards, it's going to be great. So understand the reasoning there. Just not my favorite pick. Ramondre just is not my favorite because he plays for the Patriots and they're going to be awful. But he is a dual threat guy. He should be the pass catcher as well, as long as Antonio Gibson doesn't steal that stuff from him. And then Corum in the 11th. I think it's fine. Might steal some stuff from Kyron. Let's see. So I think it's a little top heavy is my thought on the running back spot here. Wide receiver, Amon-Ra, solid as you're going to get. He's just a steady guy in the low 100s pretty much every week. Evans, I think is fine. Might be getting older, a little concerned that the Tampa offense might not be the same without their offensive coordinator, but he's been good year after year. DK in the 5th. There's some guys that probably would have taken over DK at that point, like DJ Moore, like Samuel, Ayuk, Neighbors. Those guys all better than DK, but new offense going in Seattle. They're talking about how much they love DK, so sure, I can see it if you're a DK fan. Pickens, maybe not the same story as Metcalf, but just concerned that he's going to get Drake London by Arthur Smith there in Pittsburgh, but he'll have some absolutely huge weeks. Just hope you pick the right ones. And then Xavier Worthy in the 12th. I think it's really nice. Definitely a pick that I think quite a few people were hoping they would have Worthy on their team. We'll see. So really like really like that. Tight end, I think it's fine. Ingram was huge last year. I just wonder. The question was that once Christian Kirk went out last year, Ingram kind of took off, and if everybody's healthy there in Jacksonville, does Ingram still get the volume that he got last year? Is the only risk, but he should be fine. So tight end, Schultz. A little worried about Schultz just with Diggs coming in. Is he still going to have the target volume that he got last year there? So love the aggressiveness from Daggy to go up and get picks and go get guys that are difference makers. So let's see how it works out. And then we have Ross. It's the last pick here. So just as a reminder, these are all the picks we have over here. So we have our normal 1, 2, 3, we have an extra 4th, 2 extra 5ths, 2 extra 8ths, 2 extra 9ths. Didn't make any trades. It's fine. But it's an interesting draft. I've debated a lot about how to provide my analysis for this draft. Overall, I think it's a team that's going to win a lot of games. It's a team that's deep. Just wanted more. So quarterback, just like hearing Kevin say after the draft that Burrow wasn't really his target. He wanted Kyler, but he took Burrow instead of Kyler. I don't understand that. So Burrow's is fine. If that offense is doing what it did like 2 or 3 years ago, I don't remember the last time that Burrow was actually like good for a sustained amount of time. It's kind of scary. Goff was good at times last year. Look at his numbers; he's never like super exciting, but they play indoors like the whole year until the end of the year. In the playoffs, when it matters, then they play outside, and he's less good outside. So I don't know. I would have made different choices at quarterback, but fine with how this turned out. The top 2 at running back are scary good. So McCaffrey is, as long as his calf is fine, he is just a huge difference maker. And he outscored all the other running backs by like 20 or 30 points last year per game. So can't go wrong there as long as he's healthy. He's going to be great. Gibbs falling to the end of the second round is very surprising. If there's more, if the split goes more his way this year, he could be really, he could be really, really good. Ken Walker, I'm fine with that too. Seems like Seattle wants to run the ball a lot. They really like him. They're talking about using him in the passing game too. So fine with that. The last 2, I don't know. I get the Montgomery pick to lock up the Detroit backfield. They want to run the ball a lot. They have a great offensive line. So I guess it's fine. Mostert, I just want more upside than a 32-year-old running back who might be the first, second, or third best running back on his team, and he's always hurt. I don't know. So more there, I guess. Wide receiver is fine, I think. Nico, I think I think that's a good value at 4-2. He was really good last year. There's some concern that Diggs is going to take volume away from him, but I think he's the number 1 guy for sure there. Ross has heard that Olave is going to be fed a lot more easy targets this year than he's gotten in the past. So everything's gonna be fine, but it's still Derek Carr throwing him the ball. It's still the Saints. It's not the favorite. And then Waddle, Devonta, and Higgins. All these guys last year went way higher, and now they're going a few rounds later because they were definitely the second fiddles in their offense last year. So I just want more upside here out of these picks. I think these guys are fine. I think they're safe. There's potential for them to be much better this year than they were last year. But I just like to take shots here on guys like Neighbors and like DJ Moore. These are like the number 1 guys in their offense here over these. So there's nothing wrong with these guys, just not my favorite. So kind of the second guys. And then talked about Jordan Love being a reach. Talked about wasn't a big fan of the Devontae Adams pick, but the Kyle Pitts pick could be either like the worst or one of the best of the draft. I remember commenting as he's handing me the card of his hand just shaking. I understand why now if you're picking Kyle Pitts. Sure, the offense could be great because you have Cousins and you're going to throw the ball like twice as much as he did last year. But from a guy who's owned Kyle Pitts 2 out of the 3 years that he's been in the league, are we sure if he's any good? So I think not a lot, but some of Ross's season here hinges on if Pitts is any good or not. If I drafted Pitts, I would want to get a pretty solid backup because I'm not sure what's going on with Pitts, but instead of Bowers, who is the boom bust kind of guy here. So I guess some of my criticism of the earlier picks is that don't have high upside guys here, and Bowers is the high upside pick. Just not sure. That's how I wanted to couple that with Pitts. So it's going to be riding the wave here at tight end to see what happens. So could be great, could be terrible. Maybe it's somewhere in the middle. So kind of as I started out, overall, I was expecting more out of the Cross draft than this. Still think it's a good team. Still think he's the number one guy to take a shot at. Just think it could have been more fun. So here's some overall rankings. These are positional power rankings. So I did some math based on where all these guys are ranked and then put some weighting on each position to say, here's which positions are more important. So overall, this would be how the starters rank out and then how the full roster ranks out. So on the starters, you got Ross today, Daggy at the top, and then me, Corey, and Solomon grouped together a little bit, and then Tank and Ryan grouped together, and then Jake and Greg at the bottom. So this doesn't have my opinion in here too much, other than some of the rankings that I used to help me draft, so it could be swayed towards what I picked. But just thought it was interesting to see how that shakes out after the draft. So season prediction time. So here's what we have. So my division is the extra picks guys, Ross and Daggy, Corey, me, and Greg. So I think that Ross will take our division, but not in a dominant, not in like a 14-0, not in a 13-1 or 12-2 fashion. Greg got some losses along the way. And I think Daggy challenges him throughout the year, but come up just a little bit short. Me and Corey are going to battle for the third spot there. And then it could be Greg too. We'll see. Down in Jake's division, I think today wins the division pretty handily. Tank and Ryan battle it out for second and third. Jake, I just picked Jake at 6 and 8 because every year I pick Jake at 6 and 8. He wins the title. So I don't know if that's really what I believe or not. I just put him at 6 and 8 because that's worked out well for him in the past. And then I won't talk about Solomon's roster too much because I still want to be friends with him when I may have laid it on too thick earlier. So me and Greg, Jake and Solomon missed the playoffs. And here's how it all plays out. I guess this is just really how I hope it plays out. So Ryan and Corey battle to play Ross. Ryan beats Corey. Daggy and Tank battle to play today. Daggy wins. Daggy and Sade battle to go to the championship game. Daggy's big guys are big. You win. Ross manages to score more than 1,000 points in the playoffs for the first time in a while and moves past Ryan. The two guys who have not won the trophy face off for 2 weeks. And I think it's only fitting if Daggy comes out on top. So that's all I got for now. Sorry, I don't have like cool sauce lines or anything that's too exciting in here. Just some of my thoughts on the draft and a little bit of a preview with not a lot of thought or input behind it, other than it's kind of just what my thoughts are. So I'll be back probably Friday night, maybe Saturday, with a week 1 preview, and I think that's it. So talk to you guys later.